Okay, having made my guide on how to use hyper offense, I think it makes sense now for me to also make a guide on how to build stall, or not how to build, or not how to use hyper offense, how to build hyper offense. I think it makes sense for me to now do a guide on how to build stall, or even semi-stall. And so if you're doing semi-stall, it's usually best to just start with whatever semi-stall mon you're thinking of using. Let's see. There's a lot of strong. I mean, in my opinion, the best semi-stall mons, if you're just trying to make a nice team, is like Wintrix is really good. Valkyrie is strong as a breaker. It doesn't really have the speed tier to like help you revenge stuff, but it's pretty good for that. What else? There's Wintrix, Valkyrie. Ferroglyph is actually really good too because it has the speed tier. It's able to check threats like said Valkyrie, and it has a good enough speed tier to get through things, and it's very strong. Metatoad's also a pretty trendy pick right now. So Strongmon. You can use like Seer Knight with bars. You're probably going very clever. So it's more of like a wall. It's pretty good. What else would you maybe want to use? You could use. I think actually, here's my profile picture. I'll make Volcaloa semi-stall here to hopefully show you how to build stall. So for Volcaloa, Volcaloa is probably not a bad one actually. It's got strength and it has the speed tier to range kill threats like Valkyrie, Wintrix, Zeppelin, or some with probably usually bigger threats to stall. So it has the necessary speed tier for that. Go with combustible because you don't really want to go volcanic because you don't want to lose a mon. Like you could technically go volcanic, go to timer, and then try and kill it, but it's not really consistent. Volcanic's usable on like a hyper offense team, but you want like consistency on stall. So go with Brawn Boost. You could go Rejuvenate, but I feel like you're generally not really clicking that move. And if you wanted to, you could go like, let's see, Rejuvenate, Blaze, Earthquake, or something like this. Because Luminami's not used a lot. You don't really need the Cocoa Bomb coverage 100% necessarily, but it's good for like stuff like Tsukami. You can go like this actually too, maybe. I mean, I could try this. Fire grass coverage. Let's see. What are you walled by then? Yeah, not having Earthquake just means you can't threaten certain Loomians out, but it's pretty good. You can't like revenge kill Falk as well. And I think I'll go with this regular set like so. And then I know you go like Flame Shell just to make sure that you can still break through something like a Tundralin, which will allow you to break through opposing stall. Or if you want to play around maybe like a Flame Pearl Tundralin, so that way you can kind of have so you can break through in a longer game. You want to first break the Flame Pearl and then try and break through the Tundra. Then you can go like Fire. I can type Fire Essence or Power Cuffs. I'll put a Fire Essence in here. Yeah, no, I'll just put Flame Shell. Just blow up the Tundra. Most don't run Flame Pearl yet. I sometimes do though. For not Mbit. Delete. Okay, and then so once you figure out what like semi-stall Lumion you'd want, then you can kind of go on and think about how you want to fit your walls around it. And this requires a bit more like experience too. But you think about like the defensive utility that your semi-stall mon has, which in this case Volk doesn't have hard defensive utility, but it can revenge kill pretty well. So maybe you don't might not need like a boon area with a Volcaloa. And so now general cores for like physical attackers you can go with like Tundralin. It's just Tundralin's really great mon to have on almost any stall team. With like heavy armor. Or it doesn't need to be heavy armor, I can keep it blank for now. Tundralin, and then you can combine Tundralin with something like Barblast. What I could do here, though, instead of Barblast, I can run like a Luminami. And the reason behind Luminami is I can maybe use it to pivot my Volcaloa in. Because if you think about what Volcaloa takes advantage of, you got things like Barblast, you can probably scare it with Brawn Boost or Earthquake. Maybe it's not the best thing, but if you like Flash and Flee, and you're probably taking too much from Water Bomb, I guess you don't really. Maybe it doesn't work that well here. I'll just go with Barblast, right? I mean, Flash and Flee, if Illuminati Flash Flee's on a Venilin, then Volcaloa can do that. I'll keep Illuminami here. Stuff like Chartique, you can double Volcaloa in on pretty well. I think Volcaloa's an okay mon to keep, or Illuminami's an okay mon to pivot Volcaloa in certain scenarios. So I'll keep this for now. I might end up needing a Barblast in this slot depending on what the rest of the team is. I mean, Luminol is not quite as good for Cannabo as Barblast is. Maybe just for the point of you can do like the Tundra Barblast core walls, basically every physical attacker. You just do like heavy armor on this, and then you do Flame Pearl on the Tundra. It's just maybe something like a Tyrex that breaks through here. Rejuvenate. Bulk ups that we can beat, not Tyrex, that we can beat Vesperatu, Ice Hammer, Body Crash. And then on Barblast, I prefer Toxic Spines over High Explosive. Because Toxic Spines lets you get, like, most people actually have an answer to High Explosive Barblast by now. If you have a team that's really good at, if you have a team where High Explosive Barblast really makes strong progress against, then it's kind of, man, unless it's like hyper offense. But even there, I prefer Toxic Spines. You can fish for a poison on something like Cannabo or like Seer Knight, and that could be really useful. So I prefer Toxic Spines. Then you go like Raw Maroon, Reju, Toxablast. And you can go Power Focus. Although even not Toxic Spines might not even need Power Focus that much. Traps really don't do this much in the meta, but you're not really gonna do much with Power Focus anyway. I used to run Power Focus on Toxic Spines Barblast before like people realized Power Focus was good. And then my Barblast would always beat other Barblasts despite still only being Toxic Spines, but I think now that other people have like realized that Power Focus Barblast is really good, they run answers to it. Other high explosive Barblasts will beat you as well if you're using Toxic Spines. So if you're using Toxic Spines, maybe you run like Icicle Traps or even Poison to catch certain Swampins like a Wintrix or a Zeppelin maybe. So I think that's pretty good. Let's see, what else do we want? So then generally you need your semi-stall mod. You can do Tundra Barblast Core, and then you'd want something that can deal with like ranged attackers. And right now, Metatoad and Ferroglyph are actually like pretty big threats, and it's kind of hard to actually deal with them with like conventional range. Well, like, if I just went like this, say Malamurk here, right? So Malamurk is a really solid Valkyrie answer. Here, I probably still want Stratosaur as my removal to help out my hyper offense matchup. So it's Stratosaur. I'll leave blank. Stratosaur, and then I slap on something like two. And then last two, you need some sort of Seer Knight Barbs removal because you might say you have a swap into Seer Knight with Barblast, right? But you don't. Barblast can't remove barbs, right? So you don't want barbs to go up. So then you run something like a Krakaloa or a Chartiki to block Seer Knight barbs. So I think Krakaloa is fatter and it deals with like Metatoad. Go like this. You go. I'll go Chartiki. I'll go Shade Pearl. This is like my Chartiki set that sits on Seer Knight. Burn up. Muck Blast. Fire Breath. And so what Chartiki does for you is Chartiki can kind of act as your, also can act as your Tyrex answer. So you keep your Shade Pearl on it. And then you have Volcaloa can also Revenge Kill Tyrex, so pretty good like so. And then lastly you need a Deladrix swap in. Because Deladrix's coverage is pretty strong and it kind of necessitates a very specific answer to it. And so Deladrix swap-ins are like Taushinu, but if you're running Taushino, you can usually forego the Chartiki slot because Taushino kind of roll compresses Seer Knight Barb's answer on Deladrix. So sometimes if you're in the need of like an extra team slot, then you can roll compress like these last two slots. Or you can go with Venolin, or you can use, I think, I'll go with Oxydrake here. Oxydrake's like technically the best answer out of all of these. So there's that. And what else? So I like Mr. Mischievous. You can do Outburst or Bulk Up. Outburst hits, like, just in general, it hits things harder, it hits other ancient types. Steel Crusher hits things like T-Clips and it hits Wind Tricks. Outburst is still sometimes useful. It hits like Chartiki, it hits Barblast a bit better. And I'll just put Outburst here. And Bulk Up. Yeah. I mean, I could even run Energy Orb. Usually don't get status, but there's sometimes random stuff that comes your way. So I can put the Health Amulet on the Stratosaur here. Health Amulet Stratosaur is pretty good. Let's see, is there anything that I think that's problematic for this just set of walls? Well, oh yeah, and this is, I think, where it comes in. So here's where Metatoad and Ferroglyph become very kind of quite threatening, because Metatoad can Mega Punch the Oxydrake, and Ferroglyph can kind of just smack through everything else. And that's what I was talking about with the Mom work. Sometimes you actually, unfortunately, you need to put a Setimars into this slot. And so Setimars is not quite as like good at walling things like Valkyrie necessarily, but it's actually also, I think, quite a decent ranged wall. And so you can run Rejuvenate, Hasty, Heavy Shield, Chase Down, Earthquake. Normally you'd run like Sharpen here. You can't really force out Magnify Strat too well with this team, so you put Thunder Chomp on this. You can do this. You can put like Sharpen over Chase Down. I prefer Chase Down, get you a bit of chip on things like said Metatoad, Valkyrie, Ferroglyph. You can really just kind of eliminate them. But Sharpen's a good option as well. So yeah, that's this. I just feel like Sharp is not really that useful when somebody just goes into Tundraland and walls you anyway. Anything? Let's see, that's wrong with this. Days Gust, Metal Blast. I mean, I'll keep Outburst on the Oxydrake, I guess. Yeah. Oops, my bad. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So basically, just my general advice for like, this is a pretty good like set of walls. You can go like Semi-Stalmon, Tundraland, Barblast, Setimars, Stratosaur, Chartiki, Oxydrake. So it's basically whatever Semi-Stalmon you want. You do the Tundra Barblast core. You are on Setimars for Ferroglyph and Metatoad. Stratosaur will be your T-Clips answer. It also is like a check to things like Wind Tricks and Zeppelin. And it's also Gust, so it's decent removal for Gobidemic Barbs. And then you run a Chartiki here as your Searnite Barbs answer. It's also just a pretty good mon in general. And Oxydrake, you run whatever Deladrix answer you want in this slot, basically. And Oxydrake's probably the best Deladrix answer right now, so yeah. It's my basic guide to building stall, I guess.